Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah you're well, guys. So today we're going to continue giving advice on the application process, and I realized to myself I talk about different career sectors such as practice and industry quite a lot in my videos, but I haven't actually explained those terms to you guys. So inshallah in today's video, guys, we're going to go through some common terms linked to practice and industry just so you have a good understanding of what these different terms mean, and this may help you out in the application process. Now some of you at this stage may be thinking, Fazan, I already know what practice is, I know what industry is, I've done my research, I don't need to watch this video. But I would actually recommend watching this because there may be something that you may not have come across or you don't have as good an understanding about, and I may give some tip that could help you out in the interview process as well. And I want to cover off a real life example where I had a problem because I didn't know what a key term meant, or a term that I should have known about. So I'm a chartered accountant, I've recently qualified, and I'm looking for my first sort of role outside of practice. And one of the options I have is a forensic investigator type role in accounting, and I went for an interview and I'm sat there now in these lovely offices in central London. I'm interviewing with a lady from HR, and she starts talking about Schengen. And I know exactly what she's doing. I'm experienced at interviews at this stage, and she wants to see whether I can present a balanced argument on a subject matter where I talk about the pros and cons before coming to a reasoned conclusion. There's one issue. I don't know what Schengen is. Right? At that stage, I'm an auditor. I've traveled a lot. I should have known. Schengen, if you're thinking what that is a reference to an area of Europe pretty much where you can travel between different countries without immigration control. So essentially, if you're a French citizen and you move from France to Germany, you don't actually have to go through passport control. So therefore, that is known as part of the Schengen area. So this lady from HR is clearly very confident. She's very knowledgeable. She knows what she's talking about. And I'm feeling like a bit of an idiot. I don't want to stop her mid-sentence and say, sorry, I don't know what Schengen is. Can you please explain that to me? And I don't want you guys to be in that situation either, where the hiring manager may be talking about practice or industry or the benefits of working in practice over industry, and you have no idea what's going on. It's not a great position to be in because you can't contribute effectively to that conversation. So guys, the three main areas of work you can enter with a graduate scheme or an apprenticeship in accounting and finance is practice, industry, and the public sector. So let's talk about practice first. So whenever I'm talking about practice, I'm referring to a firm which provides professional services. Let's break that explanation down. Now, the first thing to note is that when I was talking about practice, I said it's a firm. I didn't say it's a company, because calling a firm in practice a company is technically incorrect because of the legal structure that these firms take. Let me explain that in more detail. So when you set up an organization, whether you as an individual, whether it's a company, you can take many different types of legal structures. And the three quite common ones are either you're a sole trader. So that may be someone who's purely working for themselves in a service-based industry, you know, your local gardener, taxi driver, Uber Eats driver, someone who works for themselves predominantly and doesn't hire any employees may take a self-employed legal structure. The second one is a company. So as an example, I work for TGX Europe and they're registered as a company in the UK. The third one you may not have heard of, but most firms in practice will adopt this legal structure, is limited liability partnerships. So a firm will have a number of partners who are part owners of the business, but they don't want to risk their personal assets, right? Imagine a firm has a massive lawsuit for negligence. The partners would want to make sure that actually they're not personally responsible for any amounts owed, so they will adopt limited liability. Essentially, it's a way for the partners to retain ownership of the organization whilst also protecting their own interests and making sure that their liability is only up to a certain amount. So guys, the main thing you should take away is never ever call a practice firm a company, because that's not their legal structure. Either refer to them as a firm, an organization, or as a limited liability partnership. So guys, that was the first part of the explanation. The second part was professional services. When we mean professional services, we're talking services such as legal, accounting, assurance, tax, consulting. So inshallah in the future, I will be talking about these service lines in detail. But if you can't wait, just go to any practice firm's website, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, EY. We're going to refer to these organizations later on. Go to one of these websites, click on services, and they'll have a bit more information on what they provide in those services. So guys, linked to practice, another term that you may come across is Big 4, Top 10, Top 50, Top 100. What does that mean? Top of what? Well, it's a reference to the size of the firms in terms of their fee income. So the big four will be a reference to the four largest practice firms who generate the most amount of revenue. So the big four, like I mentioned before, are PwC, KPMG, EY, and Deloitte. And the list goes on, guys. So top 10 will be a reference to the 10 largest practice firms in terms of fee income. Top 50 will be reference to the 50 largest firms. And top 100 will be reference to the 100 largest firms. And guys, I'll leave a link in the description below. So if you're curious about which firms are in the top 50, check out the link, and you could also Google it. But one thing I'd say is be careful, because the listing may vary by region. So you may be on one site and that may have a slightly different order of firms compared to another. And that could be because you're looking at the top 10 practice firms in the UK, and the second site could be looking at globally. So that's just one thing to be careful of, guys. But what I will say is if you're looking at the main accounting firms, i.e. those in the top 10, the listing will be fairly similar, whether it's for the UK or international, it doesn't really matter. And the final thing I want to cover off, guys, related to practice is service line. So you may be in an interview and someone may ask you, what service line do you prefer? Or which service line would you like to work in? And when that person is asking about service line, they're just referring to the area of the business you would like to work in. So remember, I said professional services earlier, such as audit, tax, consulting, legal even. Those are all known as service lines. So guys, let's move on to the public sector, or you may hear it referred to as not-for-profit. And as the name suggests, this is a reference to organizations which aren't there to make a profit. And you may be thinking, hold on a minute, if I want to run a business, I want to make a profit. So which organizations does this cover? Well, if you think about it, it will cover organizations such as government departments, councils, charities. These will fall into either the public sector or not-for-profit, because their main aim is to provide a service to people or assist vulnerable people. They aren't there to make a profit. For example, with the government, whenever they generate surplus funds, not profit, remember, because they're not a company, surplus funds or excess cash, that normally goes back to the treasury, who then redistribute the funds in the next budget. Similarly with charities, whenever they have money left over, again, not profit, they will reinvest those funds into the charitable services that they provide. You may be thinking, well, actually the public sector isn't that big. That's probably something I'm not going to be interested in. But I definitely recommend you guys look into the civil service fast stream. That's seen as the main graduate program for the government. I also worked in the public sector at the National Audit Office, and even at the big four top 10 accounting firms, you will also find a public sector team. Public sector will be a team that provides those professional services, which I mentioned earlier, to organizations such as government departments or local councils. So guys, even though it may not sound like it, public sector is still quite a broad area that you may find yourself working in, even if you want to join a big four or a top 10 organization. And the final career sector I want to talk about, guys, is industry, which is pretty much anything else. So if you're working for a company in their finance department or for a smaller owner managed business in your local town, you're pretty much seen as working in industry. But one thing to remember, guys, is although industry refers to smaller companies as well, it's very unlikely that a family owned company in your local town will have a graduate scheme or an apprenticeship program. So when I talk about these schemes in industry, I'm pretty much referring to big organizations such as those in the Ftse 100 and Fortune 100. But what does that mean? So let's cover a Ftse 100 first. So Ftse stands for Financial Times Stock Exchange, and the 100 is a reference to the 100 largest companies whose shares are publicly traded on the London Stock Exchange in terms of market capitalization. So the main bit of that definition was 100 largest companies on the London Stock Exchange in terms of market capitalization. Now, what does market capitalization actually mean? So market capitalization is a way of working out the value of a company, and the formula for that is number of outstanding shares times by share price. So when we're talking about share price, guys, for those of you who have invested in the stock exchange, you'll know that each share has a price associated with it, and the price may rise if people believe that a company will do well in the future or if they've had good performance, and it may drop if the company has announced really bad results or the public and other investors will believe that it won't do so well in the future. And if the shares are in demand, that means the share price should increase, which will then increase the market value of that company as well. So we've covered off share price. Now, what does outstanding shares mean? That essentially means the number of shares that are available to be traded publicly. So the shares that you and I can go in and purchase tomorrow on trading platforms. So let's do an example now. So say if there's 100,000 shares and each share is valued at £10, that means the market capitalization of that company is £1 million. So it is fairly simple to follow, guys. One thing to just be aware of, remember, It's always outstanding shares. So those shares which are available to be traded publicly. If a company buys back those shares, that reduces the number of outstanding shares. So again, let's do another example quickly because I want to make sure you get this right. So if one year a company has 100,000 shares and they're valued at £10 a share, that means that their market cap is 1 million. Now say in the next year, they decide to buy back 20,000 shares. So what are the number of outstanding shares? 80,000. And say the share price hasn't changed. It's still £10. That means in that second year, the market capitalization is £800,000 now. So it's actually reduced by 200k because the company decided to buy back 20,000 shares. And again, similar to practice, when we say Ftse 250 or Ftse 350, it's just a reference to the 250 and 350 largest companies. So guys, we've covered off Ftse. Another reference you might hear quite common in industry is Fortune 100. So when I say Fortune, am I referring to another stock exchange? And the answer is no. So Fortune is a magazine which I believe is based in America, and each year they release a list of the 100 largest companies in America in terms of their revenue. And this can include publicly traded companies on the New York Stock Exchange as an example, or privately owned companies as well. And again, guys, when we're saying Fortune 500, you've guessed it, top 500 companies in terms of their revenue income. So guys, there's a few differences between Ftse and Fortune. So let's cover those off. Ftse 100 are those organizations listed on the London Stock Exchange, whereas Fortune is any organization that's set up in America. Ftse shares are publicly traded, whereas Fortune shares can either be publicly traded or privately owned. And the ranking for Ftse is market cap, whereas for Fortune, it's revenue. And the final point you may have in your head, guys, is why are you talking about Fortune, Fazan? Those are companies based in America. What do we care about them? But actually, because these are some of the biggest companies in the world, Coca-Cola is an example, they will have bases in the UK. So they will have head offices for Europe based in the UK, and they will have graduate schemes and apprenticeship schemes that you can apply to. Perfect example is my employer, TJX Europe. We're a Fortune 100 company, but we have a head office for Europe based in Watford. And as part of that, we take dozens of associates on, i.e. employees, as part of graduate schemes and apprenticeship schemes. So guys, inshallah you found this video useful. I hope you guys have learned something, even those of you who are well versed in practice, industry, all the different career sectors. I hope there was something new for you guys to learn, and I want to reiterate the importance of this. I want to leave you with this example. I recruit for positions, guys, right? I've been in that side where I'm interviewing for qualified positions. I've interviewed graduates, I've interviewed school leavers, and one thing I say as an interviewer, we always pick up on things that you guys may say. So we will always pick up on comments that will look good for you and comments that will look bad for you. And as an example, something that may look good for you is if you can correctly distinguish between a firm in practice and a company in industry. And one thing that may look bad for you is, say you're at an interview at a Big Four firm and you keep on referring to them as a company. That's a very easy mistake to make. However, if I'm a hiring manager, if I'm a partner and I'm looking for reasons why I shouldn't employ you, that would definitely be playing in my mind. So you can see why it's important to understand these little differences so that actually we don't shoot ourselves in the foot when we're in the interview.